Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining today's iTrain session on Python versus R. What's the difference and how can they automate? Today, we are joined by Samir, who is going to present on this topic. But before we do that, a kind reminder to all, please switch off your microphones during the webinar. That is on the bottom of the screen. There's an option to turn off microphone. So please do that. Do not switch on the microphone. I see some of you just now switched it on. Please switch it off now. Thank you. Yes, please keep your microphone switched off as well as your cameras. And during the webinar, also do not opt to present now. If you do, then unfortunately, we will have to remove you from the webinar. But all the webinar recordings and presentations will be available after the presentation once you fill out the feedback form. And the feedback form, you will be able to find it in the chat box. And so perhaps if you can hear me and if you can see the chat box, which is on the right-hand side of the screen, next to the people logo, then you could write a yes. Okay, great. I'm receiving already some responses. So good to know. And if during the webinar you have any questions towards Samir, you can write them in the chat box. So the same chat box you're writing in at the moment. So if you have any questions, all the questions will be addressed after the webinar, after Samir's presentation. So please be patient and wait until the end to get your answers to your questions. And so, yes, before we start, I would like to quickly tell you more about iTrain, which is the organizing body of today's webinar. So iTrain is supporting digital transformation in Asia, and we are the pioneers and leaders in tech learning. And at iTrain, we believe in two core principles: the power of technology to shape the future and help us build a better world, and that love of learning is the source of human ingenuity and well-being. And our goal, which is backed by government and academia, is to fast-track Asian businesses with the latest technology know-how. And these are some of the certified courses that are offered at iTrain. So we offer courses in mobile app development, blockchain, data science, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence that includes both machine learning and deep learning. We also have courses in fintech, digital marketing, and cybersecurity. And most of our courses are also HRDF claimable, and we are also rolling out online courses at the moment. So these are some of the clients that we have been able to work with so far, and we have helped them to empower their businesses with digital technologies. So as you can see, they're across many kind of strategic sectors that include finance, technology, industry, and manufacturing. So that is it from me today. But yes, once again, a kind reminder, please switch off your microphones and please switch off your cameras during the presentation. You can ask the questions in the chat box, and the recording to the webinar will be available after you fill out the feedback form. And I will put in the link to the feedback form also in the chat box, and it will be also available at the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions to iTrain's site about the courses, you can always visit our website, that is www.itrain.com.mi, or send an email to info@itrain.com.mi. I will include that also in the chat box. So Samir, if you are ready, I will give the floor to you now.
Yes, sure, Elizabeth, I'm ready. Okay, so I will start presenting now. So thank you very much for joining this talk about Python VSR for data science. Before we get started, let me just introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Samir Salam, and I make Samir here is bold, so you can call me just Samir. Right now, I'm working as a senior data scientist remotely. I'm working with a company in Dublin. It's named Quacking Aspen. Also here in Kuala Lumpur, I'm working as a data science and artificial intelligence trainer. With iTrain, I'm working as an associate trainer. Also, I am right now I am doing my master degree in computer and information engineering, and I'm doing my degree about how we can build a system using deep neural network in order to detect and diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy. So if you note from the three things that I already mentioned right now, I'm using Python in my job, in my training, and in my study. And for this reason, I am here to share with you some of my thoughts about Python and R, and which one you have to choose if you want to build your career as a data scientist in the future. Next. So first of all, let me talk about the outline that we are going to talk. If you note from the topic, we have Python vs R for data science. So we have three keywords: data science, Python, and R. So first of all, I'm going to talk about data science and what is a database product lifecycle. Then I will define what is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, and how are these science related to data science, because a lot of people are confused about how these science related to each other. After that, I will talk about Python and R, define what are these programming languages. And finally, we will compare Python vs R in the industry right now. Next. So let me start by the first thing. What is data science? As a formal definition, I can say, data science is an interdisciplinary study of data whose central focus is the data lifecycle and how the data is applied to the decision-making process. I know this definition maybe it look hard, but let's try to understand the main keyword in this definition. The first one is interdisciplinary, which means this science comes as an intersection between multiple sciences. And we can see here the Venn diagram that we have mathematics, computer science, and domain discipline. So if you plan to learn about, or if you plan to be a data scientist, you have to be familiar with mathematics, especially statistics. You should have knowledge in computer science and mainly programming languages. And finally, you should have a domain discipline, which means if you want to make a decision in finance, for example, so you should be familiar with finance as a field, so you would be able to analyze the data in that field. Next. The second point that appeared in the definition is data lifecycle. And we define data lifecycle, it's the time from the moment the data is created until the data is deleted. 50 years ago or before that, we are not able to save the data because we don't have the medium to do that. So in this case, the data lifecycle was very short because once the data is created, it's directly deleted, and we cannot do any kind of data analysis on that data. But with today advancement in the technology, and we have all of these tools to store data, now we are able to save this data theoretically forever. And once we are able to save this data, we are able to do data analysis. And for this reason, now we start to see a lot of application of data science because we are able to store our data. And this data is treasure of information to do analysis. Next. So if we want to build a project in data science, what are the main steps or what are the main stages that this project will go through? Here I'm sharing with you a diagram that will show you if you want to build your own project in data science, what are the stages that you will go through? It's clear here that we have four main stages. We have data source, we have data storage, data analytics, and the decision. And if you want to know how we can relate between these stages, next please. You will see that we have between these stages ETL, query, and info. So let me explain this in example to make this diagram clear. For example, Apple produced a new mobile phone. Assume it's iPhone 6. And now Apple to know if their customer are satisfied with this product or not. So how Apple can take this information, or from where Apple will get this information? Usually, any website that any e-commerce website has a feedback where you can share your feedback about this product. and also any online store, I guess for Apple, you can also able to share your feedback. Also in the websites of social medias like Facebook, Twitter, and so on, you can share your ideas about iPhone 6. So you can note we have a lot of sources about information that try to give recommendation or feedback about this product. So if you want to do analysis, first of all, we have to collect all of this information from this raw data source. And we have to transform this information uh, into a state that we are able to save this information into databases. Why I say databases? Because now it's easy to read this information when I want to do analysis. So the first step in this project is ETL, which means extract, transform, and load your data from the raw resources, which could be from different places in different format and so on, and load this data into a medium that you can do query from, like databases, whether it's SQL database or NoSQL database, it's not a problem. But at the end, we have now all our data inside one place. It's easy to do query from. Now I am able to do query. After that, it's time to do analysis. So data analytics places start, and we can do some query on this data. And one analysis that we can do in this case, for example, using machine learning model for sentiment analysis. So we can try to check if people reviews are positive or negative. Also, we can try to do the sentiment analysis for specific keyword. So for example, battery of iPhone, is it good or bad? The screen of iPhone, is it good and bad? And by doing this analysis, people in in Apple company, they would be able to understand what are people's opinions about their product. Are they satisfied with this product or no? Maybe they are satisfied with everything, but one aspect is bad. Maybe screen, maybe the charger, maybe the battery, I don't know. But by doing analysis like this sentiment analysis, they are able to understand what are the weak points. So they transform this raw data from multiple sources into information, and this information will be fed into the human or the machine to take decision. And the decision in this case could be, for example, in the new version of iPhone, let us make the screen bigger, let's make the battery stay longer, or whatever from this. So the takeaway from this diagram is your product in data science will go through multiple stages from raw data source into storage and then analytics. And finally, you will get information. And this is the main and most important point in data science. Get information in order to make decision. Next, please.
Yes, quickly, Samir. Perhaps you could switch off your video camera so that the attendees could see you.
Switch off.
Switch on. It's currently off.
Oh, sorry, because I thought it's on.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can see me?
No, not yet. So at the bottom, when you hover over the bottom, there is the option to...
Yeah, I know. Now the option is turned off because I assume it's turned on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some technical issues in this app today, although we tested 1 week before. But my camera right now, Elizabeth, can you share your camera? I guess it's better because I cannot.
All right, no worries. Then continue, please.
Okay. I'm sorry for that, but I don't know what happened, but I already turned it on, but nothing appeared. Okay. So we reached this slide. We finished the definition of data science. And now we already understand what is data science, the product and data science life cycle, and the data life cycle. After we understand all of this definition, let me now define what is AI, what is machine learning, and what is deep learning, and how all of this science related to data science. Let me start by the first definition, which is AI. Usually, I like to define this by saying, if any machine is able to do a task that requires human intelligence, we say it has artificial intelligence. So regarding this, what is this task? The machine, if it can do anything similar to human, it has AI. Let me give you an example about this. Assume we want to build a bot that is able to play a chess. So how we can build such a bot? First of all, We ask chess expert how they play chess. They will give us their plans. And finally, we will make a program using if-else statement to include all the tests, all the cases inside our program. So we say, if you are in this state, do this. If you are in this state, do this, and so on. And by doing so, we end up by building a very powerful bot that's able to do or to play chess. And by doing so, we implement the bot that is able to beat the human championship in chess. So it's very efficient method, but it has some drawback. So traditional programming, this is the first aspects of AI. Now let me give you another problem. Next, please. Elizabeth, next, please. Hello.
Yes, I switched.
Okay. So the other example that I want to share with you here, assume we want to build a classification model of cat and dog in AI. So I need to build a system. If I feed an image of a cat, it will tell me it's a cat. If I feed an image of a dog, it will tell me it's a dog. In this case, if we just assume that the image dimension is 1000 by 1000, which is very normal for today's camera, and it's multiple by 3 because we have RGB image, which means we have 3 channels, and each pixel value take a value between 0 to 255. So we end up with 1000 by 1000 by 3 by 256 if-else statement inside our program, which is too much number of if-else, and nobody can write all of these. And even if somebody can write all of these if statement, we don't know each one of the cases, for each one of the cases, what is the correct label. So in this case, traditional programming will fail, and we will not be able to solve the problem by this way. And we need to think now in a different way, and the solution comes from machine learning. Next. So what is machine learning? Machine learning, it's a way to achieve artificial intelligence by teaching the machine how to do a task without being explicitly programmed. And when we say without being explicitly programmed, so what is the source of the information that the machine will get? Actually, it's the data itself. So assume I want to build now my classifier. So I have some data. I will build some features for this data, like for example, weight, height, whatever of this feature. And once I get this feature, I start, for example, to plot this in a diagram. And we can see that by using a line, I can split this data. So I build a model for this. And this model depends on what? It depends on the data itself in order to build that classifier that's able to classify cat and dog. And you can note in machine learning, we start from the data in order to make the final decision. And that's it about ML. Next, please. So what is deep learning? Deep learning, actually, it's a subfield of machine learning, which means it depends on data in order to make a decision or to build artificial intelligence. But deep learning mainly focus on using artificial neural network. Artificial neural network, it's one algorithm, which is depend on a neuron, as you see here. Each circle is a neuron, and we have multiple layers of this neuron. As long as we increase the hierarchy of this or the complexity of the structure of this neural network, we are building more complex model, which is able to solve more complex problem and so on. Next, please. So after we define all of these, if you want to understand now the relationship between all of these sciences, we can say artificial intelligence is the big circle, which include machine learning, and machine learning include deep learning. And this is clear because all of these lead to build or implement artificial intelligence inside the machine. Next, please. Now the question is, what is the relationship between data science and AI, ML, and DL? And here you can see that there is intersection between data science and all of these fields, deep learning and machine learning and artificial intelligence. Okay, why this intersection? Because as you see, for example, in machine learning, we use data to make a decision. And if you remember, this is what in the way that we have defined data science. It's a field that use data, transform this data into useful information in order to make a decision. So these sciences are intersected between each other. So if you want to implement a project in data science, maybe you need machine learning, so there is intersection, or maybe you need other thing, like for example, statistics or pure mathematics or whatever. And this is the right side of the diagram where data science is not intersected with any of this. Next, please. So after we have mentioned all of this definition, I will share with you some application of data science that we already see in our daily life. So now we can say that all the e-commerce website and social media website use data science for recommendation. And by this recommendation system, they make millions of, or maybe more than million, billions of money. Why? Because when I recommend the correct product for the correct customer, I will get a new sale, which means a new money. And this is what Amazon and eBay do. Also Netflix. Social media website like Facebook, they try to optimize their advertisement by understanding their customers or their, let me say, users. So they try to direct the correct ad into correct person, which also would help people grow their business in the future. Next, please. Another application of data science is speech recognition, and most of you are familiar with this, like Siri, Cortana, and so on. And here we build a system which is able to recognize our voice. How we build such a system? We start from some audio recorded, and this audio recorded are labeled. We build a machine to use Next, please.
Sorry, Samir, we lost a few of the last sentences of you.
Okay, so I will repeat again here. So speech recognition also, it's another example of applications of data science. In this kind of application, we start from audio recordings, and these audio recordings we feed to the machine. So the machine will learn from this audio record, and in the future, the machine will produce like this audio recording. So in this way, what I mean the machine depend on the data, which is audio recording, in order to produce audio in the future by itself. So it learned from the data. Next. Also, face detection, it's another application of data science. And when I say data science, maybe now you are confused between, is it machine learning, deep learning, or it's data science? And don't forget that all of these applications, face recognition or audio, start from data. But the data format could be different. In case of speech recognition, it's audio. In case of face detection, it's images. But at the end, it's data. We have data, we feed it to the machine. The machine will use this data to learn. And in the future, the machine is able to produce a decision. And in this case, in face detection is what? It's to recognize the picture of that person. Next. The last application I want to mention, it's fraud detection. And it's mainly used in bank system where they try to detect if the transaction that people do are fraud or not fraud transaction. By analyzing the previous transaction, we can understand what is the strange behavior in the new transaction if it's available. So we can say this is a fraud, and directly I will stop this transaction, which will save a lot of money. Next, please. So after we see some application, let's start now to understand the demand and opportunities of data science in the market. Data science has been deduced by the Harvard Business Review, one of the most famous reviews, and it recognizes and say data science is the sexiest job of the 21st century. And I put the URL here if you want to refer and see this article by yourself. So it's one of the most important job in 21st century. Next, please. According to a survey done by Glassdoor, and this Glassdoor, it's a website that doing statistics, surveys, and so on. In 2015, they say data scientist, he is a person who can achieve the highest work-life balance rating, 4.2 out of 5. And for the salary, and this is from United States, just for your info, The salary, it's one of the highest salary per year. It's around $114,000. And in 2005, there was number of job opening around 1,300, which is highest in the top 9 job. And here I want to mention an idea here about data scientists. In the future, if you become a data scientist in your job, you can complain as much as you want, and your boss will tolerate that. Do you know why? Because now data scientists, there are very few data scientists, and everybody needs you, so you can complain as much as you want, and nobody will be sad from you. Okay, this is my advice. Continue, please. Now, if I want to define a data scientist, I like this definition very much from Josh Wells. And he said data scientist, he is a person who is better at statistics than any software engineer, and he is better at software engineer than any statistician. So you can see yourself as a data scientist, something or somebody in the middle between software engineer and statisticians. And you should be able to understand mathematics and statistics, and you should be able to understand software engineering principles. You should be able to use programming languages and so on. Next. So what you have to learn if you want to be a data scientist, I show you something like this before. You have to learn about math, statistics. You have to have some domain knowledge in the field that you want to be a data scientist in. And finally, you have to have some hacking skills, and I mean by here programming languages. And the most common programming language today in this field is Python and R. So now we will start to talk about these two programming languages in details in order to understand the differences in the market. Next, please. So let me start talking about Python. What is Python? Python, it's a high-level, interpreted, and object-oriented programming language. When I say high-level, which means it uses syntax similar from you as a human. It's interpreted mainly in programming language world. Right now, we have two types of programming languages. We have compiled and we have interpreted. So Python, it's an interpreted one. Python support object-oriented, the new way of programming, and scripting style, which is the old style of programming languages. And the very, very good point about Python, it's designed to be highly readable, where it uses English keyword frequently. So a lot of keywords in Python come from English, and sometimes in some syntax, you will feel yourself you are not writing a program, you are writing a sentence in English. Next. So if I want to share with you some of features of Python, you will find it's easy to learn. It's free and open source, which means if you want to use any library in this language, you don't have to pay anything. It's high-level programming language, clear from you as a human. It's portable, which means you can use it in any platform, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux. It's extensible, which means Python can be enhanced by libraries from other programming languages, for example, C or C++, for speed perspective. And it's dynamically data typed, which means when you declare a variable in this programming language, you don't have to specify what is the data type. The interpreter will recognize these data types. And finally, it has large standard libraries, a lot of libraries about anything you could imagine in Python are available. Next, please. Now I want to define what is R. R also, it's a programming language. And usually when you install R, you directly will install a free software environment which help you for statistical computing and graphics supported by the R Foundation for Statistical Computing. So also R, it's programming language and it's free. Next, please. What are the features of R? If you now try to compare between features and R and Python, they are actually the same, except the same point, the last point, which is large standard library for data science. And I mention here for data science because R mainly for this field, but you cannot use it out of field. From my perspective, it's a weak point, and I will show you later on why this is a weak point. Next. So let's start now, do some comparison between these languages in order to understand the difference in the demand and the difference in the usages. Next, please. So first of all, companies use Python and R. You will note that from this diagram that both of these programming languages are used by very big companies. The point that I want to mention here, when I say, for example, Facebook use Python, this means it's one of the programming language to be used inside this company, but it's not the only programming language. So you can see here that we have Python in Facebook and we have R also on Facebook. We have Python in Uber here. We have R in Uber here, and so on. So both of these programming language are used by very, very famous and big company. Next, please. So if I want to make general comparison right now from different perspective, the scope of these two programming languages are mainly used for statistical modeling, but Python, it's a general purpose programming language where you can use it for data analysis. Also, you can use it to build a web development application. Second point, it's usually are used by statistician, analyst, and data scientist. Python, it could be used by developer, data engineer, and data scientists. R is suitable for no prior experience in programming at all. Also, Python is suitable for people who are new to IT, newbie to experience IT professional. The last, this point, package distribution, the website that be used in order to upload packages for both of the languages. So in case of Python, it's PyPy, but in case of R, it's CRAN. Later on, we will talk about visualization tool, but keep in mind that also both of them support visualization, like ggplot in R and matplotlib in Python. Next, please. So within the database life cycle, here just we have to put product, I guess I missed this word. As I mentioned before, if we want to implement a product related to data science field, we have this step: data collection, exploration, modeling, and finally, visualization. I will go through this slide right now quickly. Can you move, please? Next. I want just to show you that whether you are using Python or R, in each stage of this data science, you are able to use both. So Python, for example, for data collection has pandas, beautiful soap. R has reader and rvest. Next. For data exploration, we have, for example, pandas and seaborn. In R, we have rvest and read Excel, for example. Next. For data modeling, we have TensorFlow, PyTorch, scikit-learn, all of this library. Also, it has R, Carrot, and TensorFlow in R. Next. For popularity right now, before I talking about popularity, just I want to mention one very important point that you can see right now in the life cycle of this of data science product. You can use either Python or R. Both of them support all of the stages of data science project. Now let's try to compare between them from other perspective. I will start talking about popularity. And this is a statistics from Stack Overflow website, which is a very common website in order to ask a question about programming languages. You can note here that the percentage of question that tagged with Python programming language is higher comparing to R. And it's very higher actually comparing to R. And this will give us an answer that Python is more common than R between people. And why this is so important point you have to consider, because in the future, when you have a problem and you want to ask, this means it's highly probable to get an answer for a question in Python comparing to R. Next. This is from GitHub. It's about most popular languages on GitHub in 2020. GitHub, it's a website. We can upload our project as open source project. So anybody can come and see what we have implemented in this project. And you can see that Python become the second one in GitHub by 1 million repository or project. And between the top 6 here, we cannot see R at all in GitHub. So very few projects are shared on GitHub, which means very few resources to learn from if you need some kind of projects. Next, please. Now, also according to Stack Overflow, what is the most wanted programming language according to survey done by Stack Overflow? It's Python, which means 25% of the people who use or they answer in this survey, they say in the next year they want to learn Python programming language, comparing to 4.9% people who want to learn R. Next, please. Here, if you want to also talk about popularity according to typo, and this website, just give me a sec to tell you, these statistics happen based on number of skilled engineers worldwide use this programming language, courses available for this programming language, and how many times this programming language appear in the search engines. And it's clear that from 2006 until 2020, the trend of Python is increased, but the trend of R is decreasing. And this is also a very important point to consider. Next, please. Also, according to PyPy, PyPy is the main website for Python packaging. And here we have the popularity. And this PyPy website gives us the popularity according to the search engine, which means how many times people search about this programming language. And it's clear that the share of Python is 30.61, and this is in 2020 by increasing 3.9 comparing to 2019, whereas R here down below 3.8% with decreasing of 0.2% from the previous year. Next, please. Now let's talk about jobs, and this is in the United States from Indeed website. And here we order the programming language according to number of job opening. And here we have 2 bars for each language, 1 bar for the salary, and another bar, which is the green one in case of Python, is number of job opening. You can note that number of job opening for Python is the highest in Indeed website, but the salary is not the highest, to be honest. The salary is 120K, but Ruby has a higher salary. But don't forget that Python can be used mainly for data science, but Ruby, it's not a programming language for a data science. But the good news is that most of job opening now need Python programming language. Also here in this diagram, you can note that in the top 10 programming language, R is not available in this diagram at all. So it's not highly required. Next. Here, I try to use job opportunities on Google Trend website. Anybody can go to Google Trend and just write Python and R to compare between them. And I do this conversion in order to see what happened from 2000 and I guess 10 under 2020. It's not clear the image here. From 2012 until 2020. And you can see that the last part of the diagram at the right, most time Python is above on R comparing to job opportunities if you search in Google. Next. Here, let me just take the resource to be accurate. This is according to Insights, and this statistic comes from DICE website, which is a jobs website, like JobStreet here, for example. There is DICE website in United States, and they try to highlight what are the top tech skills required in the market right now. And you can see we have Python here. It's around number 6, I guess, comparing to R, which not appear in this diagram at all. If you note that among the most requested skills, and this is February 18 until March 18 in 2020. This is top 20. Next. So who use Python and who use R usually? Python, it's for programmer, for engineer, for software developer, for web developer, financial advisor, and also sure for data scientist. R, it's for business analytics, data visualization expert, quantitative analysts, statisticians, and so on. Next, please. Some of job titles that require Python and R, we have data architect, data analyst, data engineer, data scientist, developer for Python. We have business analytics, profession, data scientist, investment, tax scientist. Would you please just go one slide back? Here I want to highlight very important point. I just forgive me. We can use Python for web development and for software development. And this is very important point to consider between the languages that you want to learn. Why? Because at the end, when you build your model or when you build your product, at the end, your product will not be just a script. At the end, you want to build a complete software, and this software should be hosted online so you can make revenue from this software. At this point, Python will help you very much in this because it's a general programming language. It's not only for data scientists. So when you use Python, you can build your own product from data science perspective. And once you feel it's ready, and it's ready to be shipped as a standalone application, you can also use Python to build the application programming interface to that model or that product. And this is also a very important point to consider. I consider it's very important for people who work in industry right now, because in the industry you care about at the end by developing a product, not just by write some scripts. But if you are a researcher or if you are a student and you want to try some algorithm or whatever, it's not a problem if you are using a Python or you are using R. Next. And that's it about what I want to cover about data science vs Python, Python vs R for data science. In this topic mainly, I define what is data science, and we mention it's mainly about using data in order to get useful insight. After that, I show the relationship between data science and AI, machine learning, and deep learning. After that, we define what is Python and R. We show the benefit of these programming languages. And finally, we compare between these programming languages from popularity, from job perspective, demand perspective, who use these programming languages, the company that use, and that's it. And thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Samir, for the very insightful presentation. And so we have a few questions.
Yes.
So the first question is there any difference between data scientist, data engineer, and data analyst?
Yes, sure. If I want to highlight the differences here, the first point, data engineer, usually these people who are involved in how we build a data structure in order to store data, how we implement data warehouses, how we implement databases, and so on. So as a data scientist, you don't care about these technical details, how we should build a data warehouse. This is the job of data engineer, okay? The data analyst, he is the one who is able to do some analysis of data, and this is based on what other people who has domain knowledge, okay, people who has domain knowledge, and they help this data analyst to understand what he should analyze. Data scientist, he is better, let me say he is one step after data analyst. Why? Because data scientist can do the data analysis by himself, and he can decide what is the data analysis that should be done. So if I want now to summarize, data engineer care mainly about how we develop and build and implement data structures and data warehouses in order to store, save data in secure medium. Data analysis can do data analysis, but he does not have the domain knowledge, like for example in finance or in policy or whatever of this field that need data science. Data scientist, he is the one who can do data analysis, and he has the domain knowledge, like for example he has knowledge in finance and he can do data analysis, so he can lead everything by himself. Usually in big company, I want to highlight this point, there are people who has the domain knowledge and there are people who know how to do data analysis, so they can communicate and cooperate together in order to do the correct data analysis. That's it.
Yes, thank you very much for your answer. And so the next question is, the person is in finance, so what is the fastest and more recognized way in getting certified in Malaysia?
Certified in Malaysia. So he is from finance background?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess a company like iTrain here, once he attend a program in Python for data science, for example, or other program for R, directly he will get a certification from this center. And this certification will prove that you already attained everything you have to learn in order to be, let me say, semi-data scientist, because you just started in this field. Also, there are, I guess, if you want something for long term, there are universities that start to provide some program, master program, I mean, in data science. So you can join one of them in order to do your job. Also, nowadays, because of lockdown, a lot of university, as I noted, start to publish some master program online. So if you want something for 1 year or 2 years, you can join this program for long period of time to study.
All right, thank you so much. And again, if you have any more questions about the courses offered at iTrain, you can visit our website at itrain.com.mi or send an email to info@itrain.com.mi. But the next question is, can Python be integrated with existing Microsoft Excel seamlessly?
Okay, if I just let me repeat the question. Can we use Python with Excel? That's it.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So the good news that Python has library, it's named pandas. And this pandas, it's for any data source, whether it's Excel, CSV, SQL database, HTML page, if it's the data inside a tables. So any source that give you data in table format, pandas will help you to do that. And it's very, very, very great library to do data analysis. If you learn about pandas, believe me, you will forget Excel after a while. No need for it anymore.
All right, thank you for your answer. And perhaps you could state some Malaysian examples of companies who use Python and R.
Malaysian company that use Python and R. Let me think about it. I will answer uh, based on recommendation from let me say not recommendation, based on job description I see from companies my colleagues work on or my friends work on. I see that JobStreet, its name I guess Seek Asia right now, it's a company which use Python for data analysis, as I know. And also I know company, its name iFlix. Also they use Python for data analysis in this company. Um, in the previous year, I have conducted around 1 month training session for public bank here in Malaysia. So they make all of their bank employee trained in this programming language, all software department, I mean. So these are the most common example, I guess. iFlex, Seek, and public bank. This is what I know.
All right, thank you. So the next question is, what is the difference between a data scientist and an actuarist?
I don't know the second one, to be honest. Can you just type the name? Type here in the chat, what is the word? Data scientist and? Just type in the chat.
Yeah, so you can see in the chat a question from Gideon at 10:52.
52, what is the difference between a data scientist and check? Yeah, as I understand from the description of this profession, I guess he is acronym for data science in the field of insurance. That's it. Because at the end, this man do kind of analysis using statistics in order to understand the risk and who we should give insurance and who we should not. So from my point of view, he is a data science in insurance field. So just like an acronym or something like this.
All right, thank you for your answer. So the next question is, what courses do you offer on using Python, R, or Hadoop?
Do you offer on using Python, R, and Hadoop? I guess this question, Elizabeth, it's better to understand to be answered by your side, because you have a brochure and you can provide all the details regarding this.
Yes.
Right now, as I know exactly Python, we have 2 programs about Python. One, it's a certified developer in Python programming language. It's a 5 days course in which you will learn the basics of Python, and after that, Python in advanced, and then how we use Python for data science and data analysis and data visualization. And we have advanced course in Python for data science. I'm not sure about the title, but the main purpose of this topic is to learn how to use or how to do machine learning, network analysis, and basic of natural language processing using Python programming language. So these two program about Python. Elizabeth will help you later on to know what are the program in R and Hadoop.
Yes, exactly. And you can find the information in the chat box. So the next question is for analyzing inconsistent data like biological data, which programming language is recommended to use?
Um, Let me ask you, the one who asked this question, what do you mean by inconsistent data? Can you give more context about this?
I guess,
Are you here?
yes, the person I think should be here still, but
Yeah, it's named Norina. Norina, would you please just in the chat mention what do you mean by
okay.
inconsistent?
While
If you
we wait for Norina's answer, then maybe we can move to the next question. So yeah, is it beneficial to learn both languages? And can the two languages be integrated in each other?
from my point of view, learning both of programming language it's just wasting of time to be honest, because first of all you have to ask yourself why I'm going to learn Python or R. If you want to learn just to do some experiment by yourself, it's not a problem which one you are using. If you want to learn because you want to build your product in the future, I highly recommend Python in this case. But I don't recommend at all learning both of programming language. It's just wasting of time.
All right. And is there any requirement on the data volumes for machine learning? For example, if there are only 20 data points, is the ML model still reliable?
Yeah, usually there is no fixed guideline about this, how many data points you have to have. Usually this depends on the problem, how much it's hard and how much it's easy. 20 data point, it's very low number, I guess. Um, for problem that is very hard and has a lot of diversity, you have to have more data points. For a problem that easy and don't have a lot of cases, less data point, it's enough. Usually when we have a problem, at the beginning, it's hard to determine how many data points. So we start usually by say, let me, for example, use 1,000 sample for each class, if it's achievable, or 500 sample for each class, if it's achievable. And we build our first model. And then we do some analysis to understand if the model does not perform well. We start to ask, what is the reason? Is it because the model algorithm that I choose is wrong, so I choose another one and test? Is it because I have fewer data, so I have to increase? So in machine learning, there is no guidelines, there is trial and error. That's it.
All right. So which languages can do better in analysis with 1 million records?
Which one language can be better in analysis with 1
Million
million
records.
records? Usually when we have a huge amount of record like this, let me say for big data, there are some infrastructure like Hadoop, something like this, or PySpark, or Spark, sorry, if you are familiar with this. So when we have a big data, we use Spark, and Spark will do all of the analysis. But how we are going to use this Spark? Python, for example, has a library, it's named PySpark, and R has a similar library to deal with the Spark. So at the end, Python or R will provide for you an interface to these computational resources. So in this case, it's not your CPU who will do this analysis, but the cluster that you upload Spark in, and Python will just provide an interface, or R will provide an interface. So at the end, there is no difference.
All right, thank you for your answer. And the last question is, how is the learning curve between Python and R? Is one more difficult than the other?
Yes, from my point of view, I'm more familiar with Python than R, but I learned R for a few times. I feel that Python is easier than R. Let me say relatively easier. And there are some points that you have to consider first. Are you familiar with a programming language before you want to learn Python or R? If the answer is yes, I guess it will not be a problem whether you want to use Python or R. Both of them will be very easy because you already know all the programming concept. But if you start from the beginning, I highly recommend Python, not R. Why I say I highly recommend? Now, if you try to check some courses that be taught in universities, computer science courses, most of these courses in United States, for example, for people who want to learn computer science, they start by Python programming language as the first language that the person should learn. It's not R. So I guess from this perspective, Python, it's better to start than R.
All right, and we just got a clarification from Narayana. So with inconsistent data, she means missing data, outliers, or data with format problems. So which language would be better?
Yeah, in this case, there is no difference because, as I mentioned, this is about data preparation. And when we load data from a medium and we start to solve the issue of that data, we could find some missing, some outliers. Data should be normalized or standardized or whatever. And for all of this step regarding data cleaning, Python and R support doing that. So there is no big difference between both steps, both languages. Sorry.
All right, thank you very much for all your answers. Oh, there's one more question. Which is better analysis of maps and connection? So with GIS, for example, land cover prediction.
Okay, in case of maps, to be honest, from my experience, I used before right now Python, but I haven't used R for this perspective. And Python, it was a great, Python has a library, I guess it's named GeoPandas, which was very great for GIS application. And also Python has all the library that I need for the problem that I try to solve regarding GIS. I try to work in a project where we have to draw choropleth map, and choropleth map, it's a map colored. Each region is colored according to some value that you want to highlight or you want to show. So from my experience about map exactly, Python is great, but I'm not sure about R. I don't know regarding this point.
All right, thank you so much, Samir, for your time today. That was also the last question. And yes, if you do have still any more questions, you can email them to info@itrain.com.mi, and the presentation and the video recording will be available on once you fill the feedback form, you will receive links. So yes, once you fill in the feedback form, that can be found, I will add in the chat box as well. So once again, yes, once you fill in it, then you can get more answers to that. And yes, so at iTrain, we do have the Python and R programming courses, and you can inquire about them also towards our info@itrain.com.mi email. So thank you all for joining in today, and thank you, Samir, once again for your devoted time. And I hope everybody learned valuable lessons today. I did, for example. So yes, thank you, Samir.
You are welcome, and hopefully to see you soon.
Yes. Okay. Thank you all for joining, and have a great day, and stay safe during the lockdown.
Stay safe. Goodbye.